In 2023, startups founded solely by women received less than 3% of total VC funding in the United States, and even less in Europe. So we're part of the statistical 3% here with Eden, but we really had at heart of tackling a big world problem. In our case, it's infant nutrition. Breastfeeding is considered the golden standard for babies, but in reality, 70% of women struggle to breastfeed.
That quote is at the heart of today's episode. Two inspiring co founders revolutionizing infant nutrition. The episode is in three segments. Firstly, we talk about co founding Nūmi, then go on to talk all about the tech and the impact of Nūmi. Then we go to Beyond the Lab with some rapid fire questions about that other part of life that isn't work. This is the Gen Z in STEM podcast. I'm your host, Maidrin, and I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's get to it. So today we're having a conversation with Eugénie, who is a co-founder and CTO of Nūmi. Nūmi is a pioneering health startup reimagining early life nutrition through breakthrough biotech. So we're going to be talking all about Nūmi and your journey of co-founding the startup and what it's been like for you. So welcome.
Thank you, Maya. Really happy to be here today.
Yeah, happy to have you. So first of all, what inspired you to co-found Nūmi? Was there like a personal experience, a gap you saw in the industry, or like really a pivotal moment that made you make this leap into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. If I had to think back, I think that what inspired me to co-found Nūmi really stems from a triple push. I would say the will of impact, the science setting, and the environment. So tracing back to the will of impact, I think that when we co-founded Nūmi with Eden, so Eden is my co-founder, we were two founders of Nūmi, we really had at heart of tackling a big world problem and put my technical skills, which are molecular and cell biology, into usage on a very concrete and burning problem. In our case, it's infant nutrition. Breastfeeding is considered the golden standard for babies, but in reality, it's extremely hard to put into place. It's about 70% of women who struggle to breastfeed. And using cell culture, we are really determined to produce those key ingredients that make human milk so special in order to alleviate the pressure on women and deliver high quality nutrition. So there was definitely this will of impact and tackling this big burning problem. And then there's also, I think, the science setting. I come from academia. I loved it. I did PhD postdoc, and at the same time, I really wanted to have a very much more applied research project. And founding a biotech startup is really bridging the fact that we can do very hardcore deep tech science, and that there's funding now for it, which wasn't necessarily the case, I think, 50 years back. And then finally, I'd have to say that I think environment plays a role as well. I've had the chance from a young age to be surrounded by entrepreneurs. So my father, for instance, but also my partner. And most importantly, Eden, my co-founder. When we met, we connected extremely well. And I definitely wouldn't be on this journey without her. Together, we're stronger and we're really aligned on the mission we're carrying together. So I think that really kind of what brought me to Nūmi.
Yeah, and yeah, such an important topic you're tackling together. And speaking of your co-founders, so Nūmi is a biotech company. It's run by you and your co-founder Eden. You're both female, so it's a female-led startup, which is still quite rare in the industry. So how has your experience in the biotech space been so far?
Yeah, I think, as you say, there's very few women founders. Though I really do think it's changing. The next generation is coming, and I'm very hopeful for the next generation of biotech startup that will be much more gender balanced. To give a number, in 2023, startups founded solely by women received less than 3% of total VC funding in the United States, and even less in Europe. So we're part of the statistical 3% here with Eden. And of course, we heard some stories from women founders about some misconception or sexist comments they could have received on their journey. However, I have to say that with Eden, It's really something we did not encounter during our fundraise. We've been extremely lucky that we've never felt that pushed back by being women. And also the investors that we embarked on the journey are extremely supportive. To give an example, maybe a concrete one,
Yeah.
when I announced my pregnancy, I was slightly stressed. And
Yeah.
they were extremely supportive. So we've had the chance with Eden to feel very much supported on our journey, even as female founders.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible. That's really nice. So then, in terms of the sector itself, like, what aspects of working in the field do you find the most gratifying?
Yeah, I'd say it's the scientific exchange and meeting the people. And through Numi, I have the chance to be exposed to many talented entrepreneurs and scientists. The discussions are extremely enriching, and that makes me learn every day. And I think this continuous learning is what makes me feel very much grateful of this journey. What we're trying to do, which is really reproducing human milk and human lactation in vitro, is really fascinating from a biological standpoint. The way the human body works, it's really marvelous. It's really a precise timing of signaling in the sense where, for example, progesterone goes down, prolactin goes up, there's the suckling of the baby, which induces a high in oxytocin, and all of those signals and receptors and cell types within the mammary gland are going to work in concert all together
Yeah.
to produce those 1,500 constituents. And I really find this incredible.
Yeah.
It's a science marvel, and I think this is also something I find very gratifying as a scientist.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible. Like when you do something, like you can see you have so much passion for what you do. So if you like it, and then you're doing that every day, then yeah, that's the best. That's amazing. But then
Yeah.
also, because you still research, but you're a CTO, and so like how do you juggle like the technical, like the leadership, and all the strategic responsibility that comes with that, while still having the time to keep researching and do what you love? And yeah.
Yeah, great question, because I think it's my very own internal debate every week. Finding the right balance between investing time to do literature and research, and at the same time my obligations as founder and leadership. So it's very hard balance to find. I think it's about having the right organization. Um, it may sound very old school to say that, but having a to-do list with
Yeah.
priorities that are numbered, putting blockers in my agenda. To be fair, I think very often to read papers, I'll often do it at home on the weekends as well when it's kind of calm. And yeah, it's definitely a nice balance, but it's also what makes the role so enriching as well. It's the diversity of missions, and this is also what I appreciate on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, okay. And so before uni, like you conducted research at Columbia University and other like top institutions. So what was life like as a researcher, and how does it compare to like leading a biotech startup now?
Yeah, great question. Um, I think that as a researcher, you're still kind of a mini entrepreneur in the sense where you are a manager of a research project and you're accountable for your research. You need to write funding, search for grants. And in that sense, it's slightly like entrepreneurship, but then you have much less responsibilities. And also, you're much more free in your research. And I think there's really a rigor to being in a startup that you need to be extremely product focused. So some scientific questions are fascinating, but we don't have the time nor the funding to pursue them in order to really put our mission, which is to change profoundly nutrition. And so making our research much more focused and hence maybe a bit less free than what type of setting you have in academia is something I would say is a major difference. Also, as leading a biotech startup, I have a lot more of a manager position now as well that I didn't have as a PhD and postdoc researcher before. So that's also something I've learned a lot lately, and it's a novel aspect of my work. So that's most likely the biggest differences, I would say.
Yeah. So it's actually probably prepared you quite well for what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I think it's academia and research is also a very good training for deep tech, biotech startups.
Okay. And then in terms of actually, like, 'cause now you lead your research team because you're more so on the manager side. What has that taught you, like, and maybe even brought to you as to your life?
A good question as well. I think as a manager and transitioning, what I've been learning is also about letting go. So as a postdoc and PhD student, you're used to owning every single detail of your experiments and so on. But as a team leader, you have to let go and accept that you can't be in all the little details of the experiment. It's about trusting the team doing the experiments and leading some of the aspects of the research projects. And so it has led me to think more global picture and long-term goals, more strategic, and take a step back. And so it's also about arbitrating which project is best pursuing and who's the best person on your team to tackle it. And that's something I've been learning a lot lately.
Okay. Yeah, very nice. Pretty much like when you start a company, I mean, at least from my perspective, it's something that's incredibly demanding. It's, a lot of hard work and lots of hours. And then on top of that, well, you recently had a child. Congratulations on that. But then that adds responsibility of, for instance, when you like during pregnancy and parenthood, you're navigating this, so it's like unique challenges. Yeah, you recently became a parent, so how have you managed the demands of running Numi while navigating pregnancy and motherhood?
It's a tough journey to be on, both in parallel. It's like project management on both ends, and juggling and finding a balance. Um, I think what it has taught me as well is to prioritize much better. And so, for example, really going after hours, for example, in the evenings, only at really necessary events and not all of them, as it could be the case before. It's also about being much more efficient sometimes. So if I'm the one who's going to have to go pick up Adele from at the end of the day, it needs at this hour, all my mails need to be sent, the documents need to be reviewed, and it means that the days are much more paced than before, which is a good thing as well. Um, of course, it also happens to me that sometimes when the baby sleeps, I need to reopen my computer and um, and I'd say that motherhood is an incredible joy. It's part of my work-life balance as well. It brings me a lot of joy on a day-to-day basis, but it's also a hard balance. And I think it's normal sometimes to feel like it's never enough in the sense where I'd like to be more present for my child, more present for my work, more present for my partners. And this feeling can be sometimes a lot, but all in all, moving forward and keeping the energy and being well surrounded as well. I think I have the chance of being well surrounded by Eden, my partner, and having a good support system is really key in reaching this organization as well.
Numi is pioneering the production of in vitro breast milk, in vivo breast milk made in vitro. So, for those who aren't familiar, could you explain what cell culture breast milk is and how it's produced in a lab setting?
Yeah, at Numi we really aim to recreate the magic of what's happening in vivo in the mammary gland in vitro. So there's really three main steps. We'll source the human memory cells, and then we'll really cultivate them in a very tailored and controlled environment, which means that we give them all they need to grow and thrive, so that they can really produce and secrete all the key constituents that are naturally present in human milk, and then we'll harvest those constituents and really purify them to formulate a nutritional package for the infants.
Okay. And you did mention very early on that actually, like, it also helps for people who struggle breastfeeding, and actually, this is more common than we think. But why is recreating breast milk in vitro such a significant innovation?
Yeah, we're extremely passionate about the mission because currently on the market, current infant formulas are mostly made out of cow milk at 90%. But there's actually major differences between cow milk and human milk. So milk is about 1,500 constituents. And out of those constituents, if you look at cow versus human milk, some constituents will be missing or some will be of different structure, which will directly impact their activity. So to give perhaps two examples, human milk oligosaccharides, HMOs, are extremely important for the development of the microbiota and the immune system in infants, but it's still the absence of cow milk. So for example, just bringing in those constituents, those HMOs, will be a significant leap forward for infant nutrition. And to give an example on structural differences of constituents, the most abundant protein in cow milk is casein. Casein is much smaller in human milk, which means that when it creates micelles and when it precipitates in the stomach, it creates smaller aggregates in human milk versus cow milk. And that's part of the reason why sometimes infants struggle to actually digest infant formulas. And so at Nūmi, we're really trying to bridge the gap and bring all those human constituents that are super important for the development of the child.
Yeah. And so how has navigating motherhood influenced your connection to Nūmi and like the work you do? Like, has your connection to the mission changed a bit or evolved?
Yeah, definitely, I would say. I started Nūmi before having Adele, and when I was pregnant, I was reading so many papers on the benefits of breastfeeding. Of course, it led me to want to breastfeed, and to give just a number as well. The World Health Organization recommends minimum and exclusively and to breastfeed exclusively for the 6 first months of the infant, so it's extremely long. And actually going back to work very fast after Ada was born made that extremely challenging. I had to go back and forth with my milk that I was pumping during the day. I think some of my team members, they still talk to me about the sound of the pump in the background. Toot, 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 toot. And it was a full logistics system. And so, of course, it made me even closer to the mission. I want to bring this solution to market even deeper. Also because since I started working back quite fast, I wasn't with my babies so often that my milk supply was quite low, and I had to complement with infant formula as well, to which Adele was allergic to.
Oh no.
It made me even more I'll be the first client of Nūmi if I can't. But it definitely made me even more motivated about the mission.
Yeah. And it probably brought to light why the mission is so important. Right.
Yeah, I think going back to work is most often the reason why women stop breastfeeding. In France, most women go back to work around 3 months. So we're very far from following this recommendation of exclusively breastfeeding for 6 months. And so we'd really like to bring this solution so that parents feel more free in their choices as well.
That's extraordinary. And now I want to talk a tiny bit about, more about Nūmi and the challenges of the company. So what have been some of the biggest technical or regulatory challenges you faced in developing the technology and scaling it?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenges is scale up in terms of tech. We need to be able to produce those constituents at scale. As you probably know, cell culture usually begins at very small lab scale in small dishes, and here we need to scale this production up. So that's a big technical hurdle, and that's what we're working on since day one at Nūmi. And then I think you've mentioned spot on the other challenge, which is regulatory. Of course, we're producing constituents for a vulnerable population, which is infants, and the infant formula is extremely regulated, and it should be. I mean, it's our babies we're feeding, and there's also the fact that we're using novel systems to produce constituents, and this is also completely novel. Producing constituents by cell culture is new, so it means that there's extra documentation to bring forward to regulatory agencies so that they can statute on the safety of the product. And so that's something we're also working actively on to make sure that what we do at R&D level will enable our product to be on market and to satisfy the regulatory agencies.
Right. And well, as you face these challenges, you're also just as a startup in general growing. So I wanted to just talk about, because Nūmi won the Hello Tomorrow grand prize. So congratulations on everything you're winning. But for everyone who doesn't know, it's it's an international startup competition for deep tech companies. It's quite big, and along with that, you're just featuring a lot more media on a personal and individual level, with your co-founder Eden just being mentioned in the 30 under 30 Forbes list. So, how are all these prizes and media on Nūmi impacting the path and growth of the company?
Yeah, we've been very lucky recently that we've received the Hello Tomorrow, and Eden was just part of the Forbes 30 under 30, which is really nice. It's a good recognition of the teamwork we do at Nūmi. It helps us on many levels. For example, it helps us recruit top talents, because it's more scientists who hear about us and who then want to join the mission. So it's super in terms of recruitment, and also in terms of attracting funding as well, because what we do is expensive, the road is long, and it helps us really prolong our runway and produce and prepare our product for market. So that has been great on those aspects. And maybe I think the reason why Nūmi is featured at the moment as well is because the mission speaks to many people. It really is a testimony of how important what we're tackling is.
Mm-hmm. So you're a scientist, an entrepreneur, and a mother. Outside of the startup, what are some things you do to unwind and recharge?
I'd say sports. Mostly, I'm a big sports person. I think it helps me unload the pressure. It's an important part of my life as well. It's about secreting endorphins, most likely. For example, I'm preparing for a half Ironman in June. So that would be my way of discharging, and of course seeing friends and feeling supported by my partner and Eden as well. But sports is a good way to unload.
Yeah. Okay. And is there a book or movie that has really inspired you in life or work?
That's a tough question. What have I been reading lately? I think, perhaps one foundational book I read as a teenager, which kind of nudged me to go into science, is Genome by Matt Ridley. I don't know if you know about it.
Heard of it.
It's a book that explores the human genome, and each chapter is dedicated to one chromosome. And I actually remember that there was one dedicated to retrotransposons, which I had found super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually happens that around 5 years after reading it, I dedicated part of my PhD to this specific retrotransposon, so it was kind of looping. And so I think reading this book in high school did nudge me towards science. And I think that's also the power of making science as accessible as possible to a large variety of people. I think it's good to really do science communication and inspire people to pursue those careers. And it was the case for me.
It's amazing the impact that literature can have on the future. Okay.
100% agreed.
All right. Okay, so as a Gen Z, I know I use my phone quite a bit. But for you, what's one app on your phone you can't live without?
I try not to use my phone too much,
Okay.
especially in front of my child, because to see me
Phone
plug.
doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
But of course, as a person, I use most of the apps like WhatsApp and so on.
Okay.
But I'd say that currently, Vinted is probably one of my most used apps.
Oh, yeah.
A lot to buy games, clothes, books, and so on for adults. I feel it's a win-win. I'd rather buy secondhand for things that won't be used for a long period of time, and she's growing fast, and it's also so much cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's good for my financials as well.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's a great app for everything. Okay. And now, so as someone who's both running a fast-paced biotech startup and managing a personal life, how do you stay motivated through tough times? Are there any habits, routines, or sources of inspiration that help you push through?
I'm extremely motivated by nature, but being with Eden makes it even easier. She's an extremely positive person. Actually, positivity is part of our values at Nūmi. Science is tough, and we need to celebrate the wins we have along the way. So celebrating together as a team and with Eden definitely helps me stay motivated on a day-to-day basis. And perhaps, as I mentioned earlier, sports is also a big part of what helps me going over time.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay. And so, lastly, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice before starting this whole journey, what would it be?
To keep pushing, to dream big, be ambitious, and finally, that it's totally okay to self-doubt as well. In fact, I think it's pretty sane. It means you're thinking things through and probably making good decisions. Sometimes you can feel like self-doubting is a lot, but I think it's very sane, and I think you need to embrace it as well. It's normal. So don't be scared and go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for the work you do and just tackling such a like huge gap in the market.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast and carrying it out the voice of other scientists and biotechs as well. I think it's super important.
Sure. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with friends and family and consider giving us a follow or rating on your favorite platform. We'll be back soon to bring more inspiration to your Monday.